Hello, and welcome to the next part of our Chapter a Day series, working through the book of Genesis. If you've been with us, we've been going chapter by chapter from the very first chapter of Genesis, where God introduces himself to the reader, because that's one of the main themes of the book of Genesis, is to explain who God is, his nature, his character to human beings. Also, to help us understand the world in which we live and why it is the way it is, to help us understand ourselves, our intended purpose in creation, why we are the way we are now because of our separation from God, and how God demonstrates his love toward us through his plan to redeem humanity. And we watch how that plan unfolds step by step, generation by generation, how God makes his promises and keeps his promises, how he provides and protects his promises, and how he works in the lives of real people in real situations in real time. Today we find ourselves in Genesis chapter 46. We've been most recently following the life of Joseph, one of the descendants of Abraham that God had given his promise to, how he would take Abraham and Sarah, and through them he would produce a great nation, how he would bless this people and make them a blessing, how those who blessed this group would be blessed, and those who cursed or dishonored this group would be cursed by God, and how through this group the Lord would provide a blessing for the nations. And we've been following generation by generation since Abraham, and now we find ourselves with Joseph and his brothers and his father, who was known as Jacob, whose name was changed to Israel. So let us go into Genesis chapter 46. So Israel took his journey with all that he had and came to Beersheba, and offered sacrifices to the God of his father Isaac. And God spoke to Israel in visions of the night and said, "Jacob, Jacob." And he said, "Here am I." Then he said, "I am God, the God of your father. Do not be afraid to go down to Egypt, for there I will make you into a great nation. I myself will go down with you to Egypt, and I will also bring you up again, and Joseph's hand shall close your eyes." So we have this moment in this chapter. The word has come to Jacob that his son Joseph is alive, that he is now a ruler in the land of Egypt, second only to Pharaoh himself, that Joseph is actually going to provide a way for them to survive this devastating famine that has swept through the region. And as Jacob is processing all of this, God speaks to Jacob through a vision in the night. And God points out certain things. God reminds Jacob who he is, that he is the God of Jacob's father and his grandfather. He is that same God who has made his promises and kept them, that the promise that has been given to Jacob of becoming a great nation is going to be fulfilled. He also points out that God is working through Joseph. Which furthers the whole fact that all that has taken place over all these decades, God was overseeing it. God was at work in all that took place. So God reminds Jacob who he is. God states that he is working through Joseph, and God reaffirms the promise. Did you see the words in that opening passage? God says that it's good for them, it's okay for them to go down into Egypt because this is part of God's plan. But I love the specific wording he says. God says, I will go down with you. I will bring you back. Do you see that? I will go down with you into Egypt. Yes, you're leaving this place. You're leaving the place of promise. But this is for a time, and I will go with you when you go down to Egypt, and I will bring you back. Why is that important? Because God said to Abraham, God said to Isaac that the land that they were in, that land was given as part of the promise that God had made to them. Part of the promise, as much a part of the promise as the promise of their descendants, of the promise of their growth as a family, as a clan, as a tribe, as a nation. So he's saying, yes, you are leaving that land for now, but I want you to know two important things. First of all, I will go with you. If you recall from previous chapters, we talked about how in the thinking in the ancient Near East, often the idea regarding a deity was that a deity was regional. So where you lived was also where your deity resided, where it had its power. In other regions had other deities and they had their power. But God is saying it's okay. You can go down to Egypt because I will go down with you. You're not going to leave me behind here in Canaan. I will be with you just as I'm with you now. I will be with you in Egypt and I will bring you back. The same promise with the same authority and the same power. Yes, you're going down to Egypt. I'm going to be with you, going down there with you, and I will bring you back. I will go down with you and I will bring you back. So let's continue after God has said this to Jacob. Verse 5, Then Jacob set out from Beersheba. The sons of Israel carried Jacob their father, their little ones and their wives, in the wagons that Pharaoh had sent to carry him. They also took their livestock and their goods, which they gained in the land of Canaan, and came into Egypt, Jacob and all his offspring with him, his sons and his sons' sons with him, his daughters and his sons' daughters. All his offspring he brought with him into Egypt. Now these are the names of the descendants of Israel who came into Egypt: Jacob and his sons, Reuben, Jacob's firstborn, and the sons of Reuben, Hanoch, Palu, Hezron, and Carmi. The sons of Simeon, Jemuel, Jimin, Ohad, Jachin, Zoar, and Saul, the son of the Canaanite woman. The sons of Levi, Gershon, Kohath, and Merari. The sons of Judah, Onan, Shelah, Perez, and Zerah. But and Onan died in the land of Canaan. And the sons of Perez and Hezron and Hamul. The sons of Issachar, Tola, Puva, Yob, and Shimron. The sons of Zebulun, Sered, Elon, and Jaleel. These are the sons of Leah, whom she bore to Jacob in Padanaram, together with his daughter Dinah. Altogether his sons and his daughters numbered 33. The sons of Gad, Ziphion, Hagi, Shuni, Ezbon, Eri, Arododi, and Arielai. The sons of Asher, Imnah, Ishva, Ishvi, Beriah, with Shera, their sister, and the sons of Beriah, Heber, and Machaliel. These are the sons of Zilpah, whom Laban gave to Leah his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 16 persons. The sons of Rachel, Jacob's wife, Joseph and Benjamin. And to Joseph in the land of Egypt were born Manasseh and Ephraim, whom Asenath, the daughter of Potipharah, the priest of On, bore to him. And the sons of Benjamin, Bela, Besher, Ashbel, Gera, Naaman, Eli, Rosh, Muppim, Huppim, and Ard. These are the sons of Rachel who were born to Jacob, 14 persons in all. The son of Dan, Hushan. The sons of Naphtali, Jaziel, Guni, Bezer, and Shillim. These are the sons of Bilhah, whom Laban gave to Rachel his daughter, and these she bore to Jacob, 7 persons in all. All the persons belonging to Jacob who came into Egypt, who were his own descendants, not including Jacob's sons' wives, were 66 persons in all. And the sons of Joseph, who were born to him in Egypt, were 2. All the persons of the house of Jacob who came into Egypt were 70. The purpose of giving us this list here, besides, of course, the value in recognizing that these are real people, that these are real families with real names, that they had progeny, is it also is a picture of God fulfilling his promise. Remember how it started. It started with 2. We had Abram and Sarai. Those 2. They had 1. He married. So there are those 2 again, Isaac and Rebekah. From them we have 2. We have Jacob and Esau. God blesses both of them. But coming from here, of course, we have Jacob. Jacob, from his descendants, we have the 12. And then we have their descendants. And we see that as we add the number, just going from Jacob down, we now find ourselves in total, we now have 70 persons. We've gone from the 2, from Abram and Sarai, the barren couple who could not have children. We now see ourselves to a company of 70 direct descendants, excluding wives. We have 70 direct descendants of this family line. And this is here to help us understand how God is fulfilling his promise. They've gone from a couple now to a significant clan, just following through this one bloodline. Now we continue on. He had sent Judah ahead of him to Joseph to show the way before him to Goshen. And they came into the land of Goshen. Then Joseph prepared his chariot and went up to meet Israel, his father, in Goshen. He presented himself to him and fell on his neck and wept on his neck a good while. Israel said to Joseph, "Now let me die, since I have seen your face and know that you are still alive." Joseph said to his brothers and to his father's household, "I will go up and tell Pharaoh and will say to him, my brothers and my father's household, who are in the land of Canaan, have come to me. And these men are shepherds, for they have been keepers of livestock, and they have brought their flocks and their herds and all that they have. When Pharaoh calls to you and says, 'What is your occupation?' you shall say, 'Your servants have been keepers of livestock from our youth, even until now, both we and our father, in order that you may dwell in the land of Goshen, for every shepherd is an abomination to the Egyptians." So we see two things as we move to the last part of this chapter. The first, of course, we have the actual physical reunion of Joseph and Jacob. Separated now for so many years, now for several decades since they have seen each other. For many years, of course, Jacob has assumed that Joseph was dead. Now he discovers that his son is not only dead, his son is alive, his son is prosperous, his son is in a position of importance, of influence and honor. And his son, humanly speaking, is proving to be their savior and saving them from the death of the family through famine. He is the instrument God is using. So we see this beautiful moment when Joseph, ruler of Egypt, comes up in his chariot and meets Jacob, his father, embraces him, and weeps for a good while together. Before there are words that can be spoken, we see this beautiful picture of a reunion. Then the second thing we see here, after this powerful picture of reunion, we see how Joseph is working to protect and preserve the people. Remember, he is God's instrument to protect and preserve this people so that God's promise is fulfilled. God is working now again through Joseph, because Joseph gives some very specific instructions to his family. He says, I know, of course, that you're all shepherds. Even though they are a powerful family, a powerful clan, they have great wealth, they've produced it all through caring for livestock. So they have sheep, they have goats, they have donkeys, they have camels. Generally, they look after livestock, with sheep and goats being their main livelihood. And he says to them, I know this is the case. This is what you all are. I want you, when you come before Pharaoh, I want you, and he asks you what your occupation is, be sure to tell him that you care for livestock. That's all you've ever done. That's your whole life as a family has been based around this. And you may wonder why. And we see the comment that is made by Joseph. He says, because for the Egyptians, shepherds are an abomination to them. Now, when we first read that, you may think, abomination, that's a bad thing. That's something you look at with great disdain. So why would we, when we come before the king of Egypt and he asks us what we do, say, hey, we look after livestock. It's all we've ever done. That's all we're qualified to do. You would seem that you'd want to say something more impressive than that. But here is the logic. The wisdom that Joseph has from living in the culture of Egypt. Something he only could have gained by spending a significant amount of time growing in Egypt, learning the culture, experiencing it, being elevated by God and his significance in the culture. You see, in the Egyptian culture of Joseph's day, the lowest occupation that you could hold was to be a shepherd, was to be a keeper of livestock. It was viewed as the lowest level of society. So imagine now, here is this group of 70 descendants and wives coming in, this sizable group coming into Egypt. And they were to introduce themselves. We're princes, we're warriors, we're craftsmen. All of those things could be viewed as a threat in Egypt. You're bringing in this whole clan of craftsmen. You're bringing in this whole group of warriors. You're bringing these group of princes, these people who view themselves as nobility. Immediately, suspicion and tension coming into this culture. But instead, you present them as their shepherds. They are the lowest rank of society. They do what others do not want to do. What the Egyptians do not want to do, they would avoid if they could because of its view in their society. So, again, how God has protected them, as God has blessed them in their livelihood as Bedouin, as sheep herders, how he's given them great wealth, he also is protecting them for this moment because they are the group least threatening. They are least threatening to the Egyptians. And they don't have to be dishonest, they don't have to lie, because this is who they are. They are shepherds. Now, in their cultural milieu, it has made them a significant family. But coming into Egypt, all that needs to be known is that they're this level of society. And they're considered safe, harmless, not a threat to the hierarchy, not a threat to the community, not a threat to the leadership. God is using Joseph's knowledge to preserve and protect. Remember that. We've talked about it a number of times. God provides for his promise, providing for these people in Egypt, and he protects his promise. They will be a great nation. Now they're a significant clan, but God has promised they would be a great nation. Therefore, they need to be preserved for what God is doing in and through them. So this is what we see here at this moment. This is what's happening. We have this reunion. We have God again reminding Jacob who he is, and in his own words reaffirming the promise, the covenant, explaining what is happening now and how it fits in God's whole plan for them. We see how God has been growing them, how he has been faithful. We see the names of these real people being listed, and we see here, of course, how God is even using who they are as a means to protect them entering into Egypt. It's always exciting to see how God works. How God takes everything and uses everything, even the things that could be considered of the least value, and he gives them value as he uses them to accomplish his plan and his purpose. I imagine that as they were growing up, learning to be shepherds, caring for livestock, part of their livelihood, they never thought that it would also give them safety someday as they are brought into a foreign land, a place where they need to go in order to survive. But God's promise is perfect. And even as they enter into this part of Egypt, into the land of Goshen, they know, because he has spoken it to Jacob, that they have not left God back in Canaan. He has gone down with them into Egypt, and the day will come when he will bring them back out again. I hope this is an encouragement to you today, and it blesses you. If it has, please share it with somebody else so that this can bless them as well. Thank you, and God bless you.